Thank you so much for inviting me. And I was just going to run through one of the things that we've been working with pre-service elementary teachers in a mathematics course that they all take here at Purdue University. And the professor that teaches that course has joined up with the Purdue Globe. Well, we haven't got her Globe trained yet, but she is very interested in giving her pre-service elementary teachers hands-on instruction to show them like how they can bring STEM into the mathematics classroom. And we had talked to her several times about, what are some things that we could do to help her with that. And she was really interested in trying out the biometry lesson. And I'm going to refer to we a lot, but Stephen Smith is also a partner here at Purdue University, a Globe partner here at Purdue University. And so we typically go in together and we'll talk to these pre-service teachers in the fall. And then usually it's a different group in the spring. Sometimes you'll have the same teacher taking the class again, and that's okay. We get them a double dose, but usually it's a fresh group each semester. And the professor will assign, she found a pretty neat article. I actually haven't read the article all the way, but I know that she really likes this. And it's called The Beautiful Tree Project. And it was printed in September 2018 in Teaching Children Mathematics. And I should probably try to share my screen. Oh, I'm not gonna stop my video, okay. Yeah, let me do a screen share real quick here. Okay, there we go. All right, and you can see this here. And what I did is I put a link to this as well as the lesson that we use in a Google folder. I think as I was getting ready to start this, I thought, I should have probably linked this to my website, and that would have been easier, but I can put the link in the chat to the Google folder, and that way, if you're interested, you have this. But just kind of show, I love this, exploring measurement in nature. And again, it's teaching children mathematics, and it's a National Council of the Teachers of Mathematics publication. And I think it just talks, it kind of speaks to those pre-service elementary teachers as a nice intro to the lesson. And then I'll jump to the, what did I just do here? All my tabs. I'll jump to our lesson. Oh, I had it open in a different one. No, it's over here. Okay, here it is. And this is, again, the lesson that we, over the year, you'll see this is fall 2020. We actually did this in the spring as well. We just didn't update it. It was a little crazy with this year with everything. But what we do is we really stress at the beginning with estimation. And we've taught this with a lot of different groups, both with pre-service teachers, in-service teachers, and then groups of students clear down to 5th grade. And what's always interesting to us is that no matter what grade level that we're presenting this to, we always begin with estimation, because again, the professor that works with us on teaching this to the pre-service teachers she was a mathematics teacher in the middle and high school for years, and now is serving in this role with pre-service elementary teachers. And she constantly emphasizes how just practicing our estimation skills is so important. And so we'll do several estimation exercises, and then we'll estimate tree height and circumference before it's ever measured to begin with. And again, what we've noticed, and that what always kind of tickles us every year, is that no matter what age, whether they're 5th grade or they're, 100, I don't think we have 100-year-old teachers, but, very seasoned in-service teachers, no matter what the age, there is almost no difference. And what we've witnessed is occasionally you'll get someone who's really, really good at estimating, but really everyone's on a pretty equal playing field as far as estimating when they're asked to come up with this. And so then we'll talk about strategies. Well, what are some ways that you could make an estimation and make it a reasonable estimation? And then once we've estimated, then we'll go out and we'll walk through the protocol, and we'll go through the protocol. We'll find a tree, 7 to 15 meters away. We use a clipboard clinometer. And we created short videos both on how to make a clinometer. I did that during COVID with my own children at home, along with a in that video description is a link to the handout that we use to actually cut out and paste on a piece of cardboard and then use with a string and a washer. And then we also did a short video. The professor that I work with, she worked with her children also during the pandemic, which we did this lesson virtually with her pre-service elementary students. But we posted both of those on YouTube on our Superheroes of Science channel, so that her students could walk through how to do this virtually. Because again, it's something that really, I mean, if you can just see how to do it, you know, most people are going to be able to go out if you can access a tree, and they're going to be able to use. You don't need a lot of equipment to do it, and we're going to show you how to do this hands-on. And so we'll use a clipboard clinometer, and then we'll use a measuring tape, and we'll step it out. And we'll, you know, up from where we are with the angle, and then to how far it is to the base. And that we'll use those triangles then to, you know, that globe protocol to measure the tree height. And we like to do this. We like everyone in the group. They usually work 2 to 3 people at a time. And then we'll work to average the height out. And once we've done that, oh, and then we'll do the tree circumference as well. So breast height, then we'll measure around with the tape measure. I think it's always interesting. Another thing, not only just estimation, but measuring skills. Both with younger students. I think teachers that have been in the classroom for a while, if they emphasize it, typically do pretty well. But in-service elementary teachers, it's always surprising how challenging that can be, I think, to measure with a measuring tape. And then you always have the discussion, well, should I do it in meters or feet and inches? And the mathematics professor we work with, she just has a fit. She's like, it's feet. We use feet and inches. And then Stephen and I are always like, no, we use meters, like, because we're science. And so it's just, you know, the discussions that we have there. But then working with the pre-service elementary teachers on taking those accurate measurements on how to measure, and some of those measurement skills, you know, as pre-service teachers, it's a bit of a struggle. And then I know when we've worked with students as well, actually putting that measuring tape in their hands and working with them on how to read that measuring tape and take that close measurement. And I know even when I was in the classroom, I would spend a lot of time, I didn't it the first couple of years, but once I taught more, I realized how important it was that we do have a lot of digital options, but it also, I think there's a lot of value in working with kids on how to take a good measurement with a thermometer, an analog thermometer, or, you know, with a graduated cylinder, or, you know, whatever that is, and talking about units of measurements and things. So that's typically a discussion as well. Once we've run through the estimation, and then using a tape measure and a clipboard clinometer for actually measuring tree height, and we'll talk about the triangle and how it's a 45, 45, 90. Because we keep it fairly simple. We don't get into the I know there's variations, and you can use, I think, trigonometry if you're up higher than the base or down lower than the base, and there's some variations. Then what we'll do is prior to the class, all of the students have been instructed to download the Globe Observer app. And then what we'll do is we'll open up the Globe Observer app, and we'll talk about the Globe Observer app and what it does, and that it has several, you know, I love to point out the clouds. I just love the cloud observation one, but then we'll have them actually run through and do tree height with the app. And at this point, it turns that app, it kind of demystifies it. So it's no longer just black box. It's not just pointing our phone at the tree and, oh my gosh, it's magic, and we just know how tall these trees are. But we've actually gone through and taught them how this works, how they're able to do it hands-on, and now how that's been simplified with the Globe app. And we always like to talk about how we crowdsource that data. So with their stride, when they're striding out to get to the base, and that, you know, that you can calibrate that they can, I think at the beginning, it actually instructs them to go in and actually record how many strides and how tall they are. And we always like that it shows them, you know, enter in your height in meters or in feet and inches, because of course we've already had that discussion, and a lot of our students want to record it in feet and inches because I think they feel comfortable with that. Some of them occasionally will do the meters. But you know, either way, I just like that then that's an option in the Globe Observer app, because it always you know, it meets up with discussions that we've had previous in the lesson. And that's essentially it. I mean, that it takes usually, I think it's about a 50-minute class period. And I know that they have some discussion questions at the end that she'll assign for homework. And I know one of them will talk about, you know, how did the calculations you did by hand compare to the measurements generated by the app? And we always have them compare with other groups, but then also with their app. And then talking about sources of error for each method of calculating tree height. And it's just a nice lesson. And then we get to talk about how this is STEM, that when you're teaching, that just because you're teaching something science and you have them do a calculation, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing STEM, but this would classify as STEM because we're using that Pythagorean, wait, is it Pythagorean? No, we're using 45, 45, 90, and we're using the technology, right? We're using the app that we have, and we're measuring those bases, that we're doing those things because we're using both technology and math. That, you know, you don't have to have all 4 pieces of that, but that because they work together in helping us come up with that tree height, that this is an authentic STEM lesson. We've had teachers, you know, that we've worked with that just try every way they can to work in that type. We had one that really wanted to include some kind of sensor. I think it was a force sensor, and was just really really having a hard time trying to add this force sensor into the lesson that they wanted to do. It wasn't a tree height lesson, it was something different. And then we were consulting with them, and ultimately we're like, you know, it's really going to be a little more confusing to add in this sensor. Really, you just need a cart and a ramp, and you know, you measure that, and that's really all you need. And they wanted so bad to force that technology piece because they wanted to make the lesson STEM. And we said, you're forcing that. And sometimes forcing that piece in just overcomplicates things, and it's not worth it. You know, you can't force that authenticity of a STEM lesson. And then we like to use, you know, that as an example, and then show something like this, how this is more authentic because you're including the pieces, and that you don't have to have science, technology, engineering, and math. You could have a couple of different ones in, and it can still be considered a STEM lesson. So that's kind of what I've got. And I don't know, and like I said, I'm happy to share I have several links and things, but I don't know, I should probably stop talking now and see how everyone's doing.
Any questions or comments for Sarah? And yes, Tracy asked, can you share about yourself?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So my name is Sarah Nern, and earlier this winter, I think it was January or February, maybe, I joined the United States Partner Forum for GLOBE. I have been with GLOBE, I think I'm into my 3rd or 4th year, I think, with the GLOBE partnership here at Purdue University. That's about the time that I started at Purdue. I started in the summer of 2017. Prior to that, I taught high school, actually middle and high school, mathematics and science in Indiana. And I love working at Purdue. I mean, I loved working as a teacher, but it's really cool working at Purdue, and where I get to see lots of different classrooms now. And I worked at a small rural school in Indiana. It's actually the high school I attended. Now my kids are going there too. And so it was hard to leave that position, but the opportunities at Purdue were just pretty awesome, and I couldn't say no to that. And now I get to work with all kinds of teachers really across the nation. And that's kind of come about primarily through the pandemic. I think we've expanded more and more. We used to work with a lot of Indiana teachers, but because of that, we've been able to grow a little more because of everything virtual. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. My background's chemistry and math.
Sarah, I'd be really curious what you got in terms of the comparison between the clinometer and the Globe Observer app. Did you keep all the data sheets and do like overall trends of the error between those two?
Well, I did not, but that is an excellent idea. And I'm going to
publish a paper.
I know. It was at the end of the semester when we've been doing it, and I think it's like a kind of ties some of the things, like a practical application of some of the things they've been learning anyways together. But that is a great idea. And we should probably record those somehow. I don't know if I can get.
Yeah, we'd love to have that analysis, because if you've got a bunch of people like seeing, especially if you have like the same people measuring the same, or different people measuring the same tree, like that is some of the analysis. I think the app development team did some checking initially, like to, you know, when they were figuring out kind of the error in the app based on, you know, different ways they were coding things. But it's something that I think would be great from our perspective to have a little bit more, like, is it really as accurate as we think it is?
Absolutely. I think that is an awesome idea, Kristin. Thank you very much. Yeah, I will, I'll bring that out, because like I said, we do this every semester, and we can certainly, I don't know if we can get a hold of past groups.
So yeah, going forward, that would be great.
Start. And I don't see it going away anytime. Like we're kind of, we've worked it into our rotation. It's a pretty much an every semester thing. And it is always the same group of trees that we're on Memorial Hall that we're doing. So
yeah, doing some kind of systemic analysis would be really cool. And if you want help with that, or yeah, that would be, I think, and yeah, we can, you know, I'm sure Brian would be interested in that. I would definitely be interested in helping with that, if and we can, you know, just trying to, because it's a little harder. We don't, I mean, I think sometimes, you know, I used to do a lot more, and even before the pandemic, doing a lot more events where you have multiple people. But you know, we tried to do that at one Goddard Space Flight Center event, and we just didn't have that many people come, so we didn't get a lot of different measurements to compare. So it's hard because, you know, as the core team, Globe Observer team, we do so much more of our stuff online and things like that. We don't actually have like groups of people in person as much to be collecting that kind of data.
yes, absolutely. I know it's been a bit of a struggle. I know.
Hey, Sarah.
Well,
So,
hey.
hey, how are you?
Good. How are you doing, Brian?
Great. Yeah, I totally agree with Kristin on that. And, you know, I was trying to do that just prior to the pandemic, when we had larger groups of students visiting the NASA Wallops Visitor Center, and have them go out and take observations using a clinometer and then use the, you know, the app. And that just, you know, went the way of the temporary dodo for a little while. So my question to you also is with the younger students, or any students, or even teachers, did you see were they more excited about building the clinometer or using it, or did any frustration levels set in when they were using it, or were they just having fun, just figuring out how to use it? My son started off with, when he was 12, real frustrated, like, I don't know how to look through this straw, that type of thing. And then all of a sudden he's like, oh, this is easy.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, those are all very, very good questions. And I should clarify, we had, when the pandemic hit and we weren't doing this anymore, we put on an instructional video how to make the clinometer. So that way, if they could do it at home, I think they had a choice. And some of the students chose to actually do this activity at home. And so they built a clinometer, they printed off the sheet and everything. The other students had a choice to do a paper and pencil thing. So that was the only time that we've ever included how to make the clinometer as part of the lesson. Typically when we do this, because we're a little constrained by time, we bring the clinometers, the clipboard, we put the sheet of the PDF that we have, it's taped to the back of a clipboard, and we bring those with us to class. But the other question that you asked about using that, we have had both. So we started, we had a bunch of clipboards already made that had the straw across the top. And what we found when we started working with the pre-service teachers was they weren't getting it. Like, it was, that straw was confusing them. So exactly like what you're saying. And so we made a bunch of clinometers without the straw. And then we went back to teaching with in-service teachers who had been, so when we did a summer PD, professional development, and the teachers were like, well, I can't, this doesn't make sense. So then we went back with the ones with straws on them. And what we found was then we had to start just addressing this concern. And so this is a really interesting thing, right? So we show them both, and we say with the straw that you look through the straw kind of, I guess, with both eyes open, or maybe I don't know how they look through it, but that you locate the top point of the tree, you have to locate it through your straw, and that we make them work at least in pairs. I mean, usually there's 3 of them working, where we say one person's job is just to look through the straw, and the other person or a couple of people that are kind of helping advise them are helping them like walk backwards to locate the top of that tree, and then also read that string when it, so that it's reading like right at the 45-degree mark. Because as you know, I mean, anyone who's done this knows it's almost impossible to be both, you know, measuring the 45 degrees and looking through the straw at the same time. And we found that some people really like looking through the straw and locating the top through the straw, and some people just get it better looking off the edge of the clipboard. So we're just taking the straw off all together and just locating it off the edge. And it's kind of a personal preference, but I totally see frustration on both sides of that. And it's almost the same type of frustration as like reading a correct measurement with a measuring tape. Like it's like a similar, it's not the same, but it's similar.
Thanks for that. That's great information. Yeah.
And I just opened up the chat too. I didn't when I was sharing the screen, but I see, yay, estimation. And I know I think until we worked with these pre-service teachers and our friend that's the professor, we hadn't really thought much about, I mean, we know to estimate, but we hadn't thought a lot about emphasizing that or placing a lot of emphasis on that. And now I don't even think about not going with estimate. I think that is such an important piece. It's become such an important piece for us at first to really get an idea, just so that you know how far off you are, or you know what your frame of reference is. It's just good to it kind of brings everyone to the same starting point thing. So I was glad to see the approval of that, because we found that to be a very important piece for us as well.
Hey, Sarah, Larissa is here from Massachusetts. I remember there is a saying that I don't remember how exactly it sounds, but after any presentation, what we remember, we might forget some formulas or some numbers, but we always remember how you presented it. So this is a reason for me to take the floor to say that you're such a passionate presenter, and I am really grateful for that. And as a mother of 3, this is the kind of teacher I would like to see when I drop off my kids at school. This is the kind of teacher I would like to see take my kids on from, and for all of you who have children, and you probably can relate to that. And since I have a floor for 30 more seconds, I just want to say Purdue University, I left my heart there. It has a special place in my heart. And Purdue was really ahead of the curve and ahead of the time when at the late 90s and early 2000, gosh, that makes me about 100 plus years old, but they were leading the movement in higher education in United States, for that matter, in diversity and inclusion. So I was truly privileged to be a special guest of the provost, and it meant a lot to me. And just since then, I see just a couple professors still left from that time, and among them Professor Linda Wong in chemical engineering department. So Purdue has a very special place in my heart for the rest of my life. And again, hats off to you. You're such a passionate presenter and educator. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you so much, Larissa. That's very kind.
Any other questions? Sarah, do you want to talk a little bit about the superheroes of science a little bit more? Because that's your new addition.
Absolutely. I just thought I'd throw in the background here. So, but yes, we are superheroes of science. So again, there were so many opportunities that were presented with the COVID pandemic and everything going virtually. And we had been, prior to that, we had been working on a podcast. One of the things, and I don't know nationally, but I know there was a big push in Indiana, and it was right as I was leaving the classroom and coming to the university. teachers, science teachers in particular, were being asked to search out STEM career possibilities for students and add that already to the content that we're delivering. And Stephen Smith and I'm in the Department of Chemistry at Purdue University, and my partner in crime, Stephen Smith, is in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric and Planetary Sciences at Purdue University. And he's the one who encouraged me to look at GLOBE as an option for ideas for professional development for teachers. And I thought, okay, I'm new, I'll look at this. And oh my gosh, I love it. In fact, I can't tell you, if I had a nickel for every time I thought, if I only knew about GLOBE when I was teaching in the classroom, I just didn't know, I would have been doing these things with my chemistry kids, but I didn't. But now it's my mission to get that out there to teachers, all teachers. But we had started interviewing. We thought, well, gosh, we're here at the university. We have all kinds of people doing all kinds of really cool STEM careers. So we just took the low-hanging fruit. We started asking professors that we work with right here in the College of Science to do short 20 to 30-minute interviews. And it started as their path. How did they become a professor? And it started just as a podcast, so with our voices. And then we started getting a couple of teachers listening to it, and they said, we would really love to see these interviews happening. Could you put this in video form? And I feel like Stephen has no shame and he loves doing on camera, but I have a hard time enough hearing my own voice, let alone seeing myself on screen. And so I was like, oh man. And Stephen kind of forced me into it. I feel like he's not here, so I can blame him. But anyway, so we started videotaping all of these. And so now we release it as both an audio podcast, but then we also started turning these into our videos on Superheroes of Science. So that's how it kind of started. And we're into our third season now, but with the pandemic happening and basically everything we were doing canceled, all at once, or was postponed all at once, we decided, well, we've already established this YouTube channel. What else can we do? And so now what we do is we have our Science from the Expert. So where we had started with your path to the career that you chose, where we were interviewing a lot of just Purdue faculty, our focus is still Purdue, but we've really branched out and we're trying to get people from all over the world. Anyone who will agree to talk to us about anything related to STEM, really. I mean, we're College of Science, so we know science, but we wouldn't say no to anybody. But what we've done is it's kind of morphed into content. So we want to know just a brief content about anything, just current research happening now, because we think there's a lot of people really interested in what are people looking at now? What is the research happening now? I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, we talked to a NASA scientist about Goldilocks planets and alien smog, and it was fascinating. I mean, I had no idea that people do this for a living. Like it's just amazing. And we've had, we just had a Purdue graduate who works for Procter & Gamble, and she talked about why you sweat and why your sweat smells and all that kind of stuff. And so she develops deodorants, and it was the chemistry of deodorants. I mean, it's just really cool stuff. We had someone just last week, we talked about invasive species and the Bradford Pear and how it's so beautiful, but it's very invasive, and that's on this list now. And so it really just runs the gamut, basically with people that are interested in this. So that's our Science from the Expert, and that's science for everyone. But then we're also doing the professional developments that we would sign up and do conference sessions for. We've started a playlist with those. So it's our Teacher PD series. So we have a link for that. And then we also have been partnering with collaborating with community partners to do virtual student programs as well. So last fall, we did an online virtual field trip. It was called Wonders on the Wabash, and that's always been in person. We took that virtually this past year, so we were still able to serve all of the students in Tippecanoe County with our trip down the Wabash. So we got in a kayak and we took a couple cameras and we videotaped about, it was water quality and fish diversity, mussels, and I forget, there's one other one that we did as well, but we had little sessions and we came up with questions for them. And then the teachers were still able to, so it wasn't as fun as going in person, but the teachers were able to do that in the classroom. Then we also, this past spring, we did a farm education conservation camp. Again, that one was always in person, but what we were able to get 5 to 10 minute videos from all these community partners showing that their presentation that they would have done anyway. So where the students weren't able to come out to the camp, we were able to run those sessions through our channel. And then once our target audience was done, because we kind of gave them priority, that's who it was for, then we were able to open it up to anybody, and we kind of pushed that out. But we're on social media, we're on Facebook, Twitter, we're at Purdue SOS is our handle, or I don't know what you call it, whatever. I don't do a lot of social media, so I don't know what it gets at Purdue SOS. But then our link, Superheroes of Science, it's Purdue University Superheroes of Science on YouTube. And we appreciate subscribes, follows. Actually, every time we get a subscribe or a follow, that helps us justify continuing to bring these virtual things, and kind of helps keep our jobs. So it's like we need our jobs, and we appreciate getting the word out about that. We'd love to have you take a look and hit that subscribe.
There is a message in chat from Barbara and from Brian, if you have a moment to take a look.
Yeah, Forrest Susan.
Mine's
yes.
a comment.
Absolutely, we would love that. And then, yeah, the Bradford Pear. Oh, yeah. And I had no idea. I mean, we just had no idea about, and Purdue has this education store, which we need to look at. We're going to post these links when that one rolls out. I think that one will come out June 14th. But really, we have some programs, and different communities do have these programs where they will come out and remove that tree and plant a new tree for it. And it's just it's a tree, and I feel kind of bad about it. I'm like, but it's a tree. But the urban forestry forestry specialist who we were speaking with said, well, it is a tree, but it crowds out the more hardy trees, like the hardwood trees, like maples and oaks, and where those will last 80 to 300 years, the Bradford Pear is really at about 20 years. That's when you start seeing it splinter. And plus, I guess its fruit isn't real. It's pretty sugary, and it's not real good for the songbirds. And it's so prolific. I mean, it just spreads those seeds. We have I don't even know how many acres it is. And there's all kinds of people that thought Purdue went out and planted those on purpose. And no, it's just, okay, I'm gonna get this wrong. Secondary succession. I don't know. I don't know if I said that right, but it's just where like the birds have taken those seeds and deposited them, and they've just grown. And there's this whole section where and we show that in the video, where it's the Bradford Pear, the Asian bush honeysuckle is one, and then crown vetch, and that's all you see. And they're all three invasive. And so that was pretty cool. But yes, I would love to connect with anybody who would be interested in doing an interview. We would love to feature you on Superheroes of Science.
Cool. And you probably got a couple of subscriptions just as we were talking, right?
Thank you. Thank you. I can tell Stephen I worked today.
I can't guarantee it, but you did a pretty good job making us all interested in subscribing. And yeah, so Barbara, do you want to talk about the scientist cards for a second?
I will have to get off mute. Sorry, I'm multitasking today, sorry. Yeah, so if you haven't seen our scientist cards, the Forest Service Research and Development has scientist cards, which are kind of like baseball cards for scientists. I think we have 200 plus scientists now in cards, and the people who put them together specifically made sure to show the range and diversity of, topics that people research, people who go into science, all their different backgrounds. And then I'll put a link in the chat box, and you can order them for free. It's your tax dollars at work. You can order them in themed packs. So there's like wildlife scientist cards or fire science cards or whatever, or you can just get a general pack of 100.
That is awesome. Yes, I would love to see that. Is such a neat idea.
Great. I'll put the link in, and if you want me to send you some, just let me know and I can put them in the mail as well.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that would be, well, yeah, I'll see if I can look. Would I be able to find emails from people that are, probably I can. I'll find you. I'll find you and let you know.
We can make sure you're connected, the two of you, and then you can talk about the scientists at Purdue that are Forest Service, right? Is that what you're also referring to, Barbara? Is there?
Yes, I
something
already
there?
sent them an email to ask if they'd be interested.
Okay.
Yes,
That was your multitasking, right?
Yes, it
Already
was.
setting up. So we'll make sure you're connected, and the cards are really awesome. I really love the cards, and it tells you also where they're from, which I think is so relatable for kids, right? And where they've been to school, so they can think about, okay, this person lives in my, just a little ways away from me, and they went to this school and they did this. And so I think that that's really cool that these cards exist, and the Forest Service has done a great job reaching all the different. It's kind of neat because it is all the careers in the Forest Service, and it's not just fire or trees, right? There's
Right.
entomology, the watershed, people that talk about air quality, like it's the whole gamut of the Forest Service careers are represented in there. And I think even communications is in there too. And so it's even reaches kids that maybe not think science is their thing, but science communication might be their thing, right? And so it's showing you that relationship. So I really love the cards.
That is so awesome to just, I know with what teachers were being asked to do, and I think they're still asked to do, it's just part of that STEM career awareness but then it's like, well, how do you, okay, if I'm a teacher and I'm teaching in the classroom right now, where do I go to find about jobs like this? So I feel like that could be a really great solution for a lot of teachers. And especially, I just know the feedback we've received, just, could you put these interviews on video? But I think if you have the cards, so you see those pictures as well, like a baseball card, I think there's a lot of value to the students. We know quite a few classrooms, I think, where they get to watch these, but when you see someone that looks like you, that you think, oh, well, they are doing this. Well, I'm like them, I could do this too. And so we really, we aren't going to say no to anybody. We love to hear about all sides. We feel like we get more out of this than what we're producing. We get to learn cool stuff all the time. But we try hard to not only find really cool topics about research happening now, but also find a nice mix, I guess, of different, different people so that way any student, no matter who they are, that they're going to be able to find someone that they can relate to and see. I think that visual aspect can be very powerful, especially if you can find someone that looks like you.
One thing I love about those cards when I use them just here, because we have a lab here, there's like a scavenger hunt activity that comes on a card. So it tells you how you can use them with kids. So 2 things, students and teachers of every age have loved them. Like I've never seen anyone not interested in looking at them. Yeah. And I'll admit, when I first saw them, I was like, man, whatever, but they're one of the most engaging products that I've been able to use. But when the kids here in Warren, Pennsylvania get super excited because they not only look like the person, but the person on the card is their neighbor, or they know them because they go to the same church or whatever, they get all excited. And, that's really cool to see, because they know a scientist, but they didn't know they were a scientist, sort of thing.
Absolutely. No, I think that is so powerful. Just that I think when you say scientists, you think these things, but then when you hear they talk like me. Well, I understand that. Well, we have several that are like, Corey, I love Corey. He was our very first one. And he's like, yeah, I graduated from college and I just delivered pizzas. And he's talking about this. And he said he went to one of his professors. He delivered pizza to an old professor that he had. And the guy was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm delivering pizzas. And he's like, you need to go to grad school. And Corey's like, well, show me how. And the guy helped him fill out his application, and a professor here at Purdue and in the chemistry department. Oh, he is. But we had another professor. It's like, I failed that. He talks about how, and I think to hear these things, and especially I just think of all the students that I've worked with that struggle and that don't know what they want to do. And, you know, oh, I'm no good at math, and, you know, all these things. And you hear that so much from these people that we interview. I mean, they say these normal things, and yet here they are doing this awesome research here at Purdue. And so, like you're saying, that they go to church and they look like me, they're my neighbor. I think that is just such a powerful thing. And it really, I think, helps kids get to that point where they can say, like, well, I can do that. And ultimately that's what we want, is just that they believe that they can achieve, you know, the things that they want to do. So thank you for that. I'm so excited to see these cards.
Any other questions for Sarah?
I don't have a question. This is Sherry Heron. I just wanted to throw out that I enlarged those cards. I found all the ones with African Americans and enlarged them to poster size and used them with lower elementary and pre-K students to African Americans in a summer camp and some after school things and at middle school career days. And so, you know, you can show their picture on one side, but on the back you can be reminded of the highlights to show the kids. And what was really astounding to me is that when I did that with middle school career event, and I said, and this one went to so-and-so HBCU, and this one went to so-and-so HBCU, and thinking that they would know what that meant. They did not know what HBCU meant even. And this was a career class. So I just wanted to throw that out there in case anybody else wanted to use it with a large group, larger, you know, with you or a classroom setting or something. You can enlarge those at the print centers.
That's good to know.
Thank you, Sherry. Yeah, because you can download them and then print them out freely. Just like Globe stuff, right? Where you can print and use at will, as long as you credit the Globe program. That was my little sound bite, making sure everyone did that, you know.
Absolutely.
Any other questions or comments for Sarah? I saw Mike, you unmuted. Do you want to say
Yeah,
something?
Sarah, I just wondered, you know, the elementary students are probably our most reluctant learners around STEM. So what are their reactions to doing the tree activity?
Well, I think just that they get to go outside is
That's true.
point. And
Yeah.
they were, you know, they were so good. I mean, it's just so fun to watch them. And I think at the beginning when you're having those discussions, especially at the elementary, I think adults, okay, you know, you can talk about estimation and okay, it's funny because you think it's 1,000,000 feet and it's 6, and you know, it's like, you know, but when you have the kids and you're saying, well, how could you measure something? And some of the things that they come up with, you know, I'm gonna climb the tree and use a fishing pole, and you know, they have these elaborate schemes. It's like, well, that might work, but we're not going to do that. So I think I think just their creativity and that it's just so fun to to especially, you know, not being in it every day. I miss those daily interactions with that. And so getting back there and seeing, you know, that creativity is so fun. But really, I thought they did well as far as measuring off. Once it takes some time at first to kind of, you know, okay, here's your measuring tape, and you should know how to do this because you do workbook pages, but when you get it in your hands to actually go and take those measurements, it's different. And so working through it, but then they get quicker at it. And then you always have someone that takes charge in the group and running them. So I was impressed. I didn't ever do this with students younger than 5th grade. And I think that probably is the limit. I think 5th grade, it worked really well. I don't know how it would work younger than that.
I just think the future elementary teachers are amazed at how pacing, how accurate their pace can be if they practice with it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how my dad did that all the time. They ran a road construction company, and we never pulled out a tape to find a survey pin or something. He would just pace it.
Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. So,
Thanks.
thanks.
I agree.
Mike, I'd like to also add, I used to work in outdoor ed, and I did this biometrics with 5th and 6th graders regularly. So they really do engage very well with it. I would also suggest, if you're going to do this, I had a 100-foot paracord that we just walked along that. That made it really easy for the kids to learn how to estimate what their pace or step was.
Very cool.
That's good.
That is good.
Actually, there is a find your pace activity that I think is, the same thing that you all are doing, but pretty sure we have it on our website. Our graphic designer did a nice little card that people could record their pace on. I have to make sure that that actually got up on the website. Like you can practice it, and you can make little notes on the little card with what your actual more accurate pace is, rather than the estimate the app does based on your height.
That's really cool. I would love to see that too. I think that would be useful.
Yeah. They seem amazed that their pace doesn't change from week to week. That it's, and I know you had a rough weekend, but I don't think you shortened one of your legs or anything. So
that doesn't happen until the teenage boys are sprouting like an inch a week, right?
Right.
Then their pace may change.
Right.
All right, so we are 1 minute from the hour. Any last questions for Sarah before we thank her profusely for bringing us this activity? And I think that if you want to share the links with myself and Haley, we'll make sure they get posted with your video that we're recording, so that we can send people to those. And also, we usually capture the links that are also put in the chat, so we'll make sure the links to the scientist cards go with that as well. But any other last questions for Sarah? All right, Sarah, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
It was great. Your excitement and enthusiasm comes in every time.